Guys, welcome to the Funky Marketing Show. I'm glad you're here one more time. Today we are hosting a really interesting guest, somebody that I've been following a while on LinkedIn. We've been interacting back and forth, and I didn't see much of his content recently, so I decided, okay, let's invite the man to the podcast and hear what he's been up to, what he's been doing. So today with me is Kriss, and if I can sum up what he's doing, like he's actually helping business owners. All of them are busy to to better learn and know content marketing through the coaching and also through laser targeted ghostwriting, because they don't have time sometimes to do it on their own. And so Kriss, welcome to the show, and I gotta ask you right away, like, how good are you at psychology? Because I guess that's the fundamental part of coaching.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a bachelor's in psychology. That was actually what I got my degree in undergrad, and thought I was going to go on and use that maybe in the world of sports psychology, because I played basketball in college, and thought I would kind of go into the sports industry, and actually got a master's in sports management with that intention as well, and worked in that world for a while, and realized it's not nearly as glamorous as the pictures painted for it to be, and made a shift. So.
Yeah, interesting. I forgot about that. I think we commented on the basketball sometimes, because I also play basketball, and this morning I was complaining that like everything is gray outside. At least the rain stopped, but like everything hurts because I've been playing basketball last night. It's 10 to 11 p.m. Date, and like everything will be okay, and it's time for me to say, look, I was great, but I sucked. Actually, all of us sucked, and so I have no excuse, and that's the motivation for today.
Yeah, I haven't played in a long time. It's been 5-6 years probably. I was playing in a rec league here, kind of where I live, and I caught an elbow and got a big cut in my forehead, and my wife met me at the emergency room and was like, "You're done."
Nice.
That's the last time you're playing. So that was into that.
That's an interesting story. Yeah, cool. Okay, so you're doing lots of interesting things that I like to talk about. So I think it's going to be great. We're going to go back and forth on some of the topics. But first of all, while I was going through your post in your profile yesterday and this morning, I saw that you have a specific format in way you are posting on LinkedIn. So you catch the number of characters and the line that is over there, and it's just enough for people to click and go to see more. Because if, guys, you are not aware, see more is one of the most important CTAs over there on LinkedIn. So let's go a little bit into formatting, the importance of the intro and all those other stuff.
Yeah, I think of it as like hook, body, and call to action, right? Like those are the three most important parts of any post. And a hook, especially in a text post, you have that first 5 lines before the see more pops up. And I think a lot of the mistakes I see really often, a lot of times when people write that intro to kick things off, is they write it more than 5 lines. And so it gets broken up in the middle somewhere, and the see more is there, and it just kind of seems strange. And you're not really using the hook to grab somebody's attention to convince them to continue reading. It's just kind of a jumble there in the beginning. So you have to be really intentional about that first 5 lines if it's a text post. If it's like a video, or you're sharing like a GIF or an image and you're telling a story about that, it's 3 lines. So it's actually shorter. So you have to get to the point faster. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind for the initial hook, is you want to grab somebody's attention in that first 5 lines. You want to keep those lines as short as possible if you can. If you look at the difference between desktop and mobile, it may look like 5 lines.
That's where it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get to mobile and it's chunked up, and the see more happens somewhere in the middle because of the character count. So I would encourage everybody to work really, really hard on that first 5 lines to keep them short and like immediately hook people and grab their attention, because that's what encourages somebody to keep reading.
Yeah, and it's also like what you want to do with those first lines. You actually want to grab people's attention in. It can happen in a different ways. Like I remember back in, it was 2016, 17, when Josh Fetcher actually started with Broetry, or however it's called. And the what was behind it is like, you can piss them off, you can make them cry, but just don't make them happy, because it's not something that you want. And like in the body, you can get to it, and you can get them to the right path. If they are pissed, they won't be pissed again, and those kind of things. But make them react and show some stronger emotions. And what I'm also seeing, and what's kind of interesting, is that people use that first part to kind of go slow, and then they leave everything for the body. But lots of people won't ever get to read that part.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not convincing me, if you're not drawing some kind of emotion out of me, or telling me that I need to spend my time reading the rest of the post by what you're giving me early, I'm just going to leave, or I'm going to keep scrolling and keep going. You've got to grab my attention and convince me, because, part of what we talk about all the time is how short everybody's attention spans are. Our attention span, because of social media, is 15, 20 seconds. You've got to hook me. If you don't do that, then it's your loss. If you don't do a good enough job in those first few lines. So it's really important.
And especially now when, like customers' journey is changing, and people want to get everything in the feed. And, you gotta format your content the way so they actually want to consume it. Because like I don't know if you see, I see a lots of ads of people, companies promoting like blog posts, but they use one sentence, and it's the first sentence from the blog, nothing else. And I was like, why?
Yeah. I'm amazed at some of the formatting things that I see, like the thing with people sharing 20, 30 hashtags in a post, and the post is 2 or 3 lines long. What are you doing? Like, immediately looks like spam. I'm just thinking red flags all over the place. Like, well, it's a carryover from Instagram, I feel like. A very strange one. But that's a big one. And then like I've talked about this with several people, but the mass tagging thing, like when somebody does a post and tags like 50 people to try to get somebody to respond.
Yeah, that worked in the past. That's why they are doing it.
Yeah, but it's crazy. Like if I'm included in a huge tag pool like that, I'm thinking you just want to hear from anybody. Like you don't care to hear from me. You just want somebody to interact with your content. Don't really care who it is. Anybody.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read the recent report from Richard van der Bloem, and one of the things he said is like, if you tag people and then don't react, like your post is gonna go down.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Because
it's crazy.
Yeah, but so anyway, I think at least for me and for what we do with the clients, one of the most important parts of LinkedIn becomes who are we connected with, because it transferred to who is engaging with us. And if we go like, okay, we are posting now, but who are we connecting with? Lots of companies would go with connecting right into the search and typing their ICP role in the company, and this is where they're making mistakes, because lots of those people will never ever see the request or anything else.
Right.
How do you do it? What's your approach to it?
Very intentional about it. I typically, I have the follow button first and foremost on my profile. So I ask that people follow me first before we connect, because I want to see if they're really like locked in to my content and they're there with me. And if that's the case, then I'll follow them back, and then ask a couple of days later, I'll reach out, with a connection request, and, basically try to establish that connection and make sure, that we're kind of giving back and forth. And once we have that, I'll actually try to take it to the next level and see if people are willing to have a conversation with me offline. So anybody that accepts a connection request, I'll say, okay, let's chat for 15, 20 minutes on a call. About 25% of the people I reach out to do that. But every time those calls turn into like really mutually beneficial engagement relationships where we're engaging on each other's content, and sometimes they turn into leads. That's just my process. I'm very intentional about it. And like when I go out and comment on other people's content, it's not always necessarily somebody I see as a potential client. It could be somebody I see as, you know, like having the ability to collaborate with at some point down the line. So I kind of think about it in a couple different ways, but I tend to play in the same couple of spaces, you know, in terms of where I'm comfortable commenting and adding value to the conversations, and I stick with those. I'll experiment a little bit, but it's pretty consistent. You know, it stays similar day by day.
Yeah. Do you catch like specific hashtags, specific topics, and go into the recent posts?
I'd start with the recent of my own feed and to just see like who in my feed is doing what they're doing. We talked a little bit about this offline. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but that's changed as I've taken out a lot of connections. I called a lot of my connections intentionally for that reason. But I also spend a lot of time in like hashtag solopreneur and founders and coaching and personal branding and personal development, because those all fit pretty closely to my client base. And yeah, try to maintain a presence there where I'm commenting on the people that are creating good content. There's a lot of people creating content in those feeds. The people that are actually creating well-formatted, intelligent content, that's the content I'll interact with.
Yeah, I wish it's the same as me analyzing like B2B CEOs and C-level executives content. It's not. It's totally opposite of what you're saying. Like there are trucks, there are cats, there are dolphins, whales, all kind of stuff over there, but just not the things that they need to share.
Yeah.
But you know,
that's why I know that there's a need for coaching, because I see so many people just not treating it correctly. And it's not for lack of desire to create it and like have a voice. I just think it's for lack of understanding of really what is like strong, impactful content versus not. You know, there's a
exactly. I think they are looking at the, you know, especially those that are you know, mid-age and just building a company or coming to the social media from you know, winning offline.
Yeah.
And they look at the executives who are you know, running huge companies, and they don't realize that the engagement and the likes and followers on their profiles is because the company is huge.
Yeah.
It has 100,000 people working in the company, and
Right.
they get featured in the LinkedIn news all the times, and you know, those kind of things. But you know, so one thing I will add, what we do a little bit differently is, you know, we tend to find like let's say 5 to 10 people who we call like, let's call them influencers. However, people that you know, that are well respected in the space and that have engagement on their posts. So basically, we want to get those people, to steal them to come to engage with our posts, because it's the shortcut for, you know, getting them from -0 to engage.
Right.
When they're already engaged, you know, like, it's the content. Is it better than what they're engaging with? Yes, perfect. They will comment on our post as well. And also, like, I send message to all of my connections, but I usually do it like I wait at least 2 weeks for them to consume the content, so they know what I'm all about. And you know, and sometimes I just say, you know, hey, just wanted to drop a line and say hi, like literally that. Like it happens like a month ago. I got the response like, when can we talk? We need a vendor. I was like, that was too soon. So I asked for the process. You know, why did she decide? And she said, okay, look, we really needed a vendor, and you know, we connected, and I check out your profile. I saw that mutual connections are relevant people. I saw who you have on the podcast. That's it. Let's talk.
Nice. That's awesome. I wish that would happen more often.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go and talk a little bit about the connections. So you start growing, start connecting with people, and then you decided, you know, to cool it down. What are the reasons behind it?
got to like 2,100 connections over the course of time, and that's where I was sitting. And that goes all the way back, man, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years, something like that. Back in the days when I wasn't really using LinkedIn the way that I use it now, using it like how most people do, is just a place to store a resume or search for jobs in between jobs. And, I just had this realization over the weekend. I don't recognize half the names that I'm seeing in my feed. Like, who are these people? Like, I don't know these people. We've never really connected. We've never really engaged. They're obviously not a part of my core community. I've got to get back to that, because I felt like, the reason why my content was struggling a little bit, we all know there's been algorithm updates recently. And I feel like, the reason why my content was flatlining a little bit there is just like you said, you haven't seen my content in a long time. I actually had people DMing me saying, are you okay? Like, I haven't seen your content in a long time. Is everything all right? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm fine, but they were telling me straight up, like, I'm not seeing your content. And that was concerning to me, so I was just like, okay, well, I've got to fix this, took those 2,100 connections down to like 700. I just spent 3 hours like, I don't know who that is. We've never interacted. Remove connection, unfollow, and just did it. And it was kind of scary, as I'm thinking, okay, I'm really paring my community down, and that could hurt. It cut my followers by like 1,000. But the funny effect, I wrote a post about it and said what I was doing, and all these people chimed in and were like, yeah, I'm thinking of doing the same thing, or I just did it. I'm seeing a big difference. That's a good idea. Sounds risky. Like, everybody had different opinions on it. But I don't know. It's working for me. Like, I'm seeing people again that I want to see. It's easier to like spend the time in my feed to do my interaction work each day. I'm not having to fish or like go specifically to people's profiles to interact, which is so time consuming. I feel like it was worth it. It was a risk, but I lost the followers, but I really don't care. I'd rather have fewer engaged followers than a ton of people that I'd have no idea who they are, so.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta lower it down, and you gotta have some kind of, bet how you are narrowing down who you are connecting with.
Yeah.
So like, I am always telling Yag, like, Yag, sorry, but I reject people from India, from Pakistan, from those countries, because unfortunately there are a lot of people who just want to spam you with something over there. And I love you. You are from India, but that's how it happens. But I want to give an example. Like, before I started Funky Marketing, I was working in an agency that is based in Serbia. And so I had lots of connections from Serbia, and I think I was the most active guy on LinkedIn from there. And I was wondering, like, before that, I work in a Canadian-based agency and startups and those companies, and I have seen people that write in English in my feed. But when I start adding people from Serbia, like, I only saw people writing in Serbian in the feed.
Yeah.
So like, and Serbian isn't the official language that's recognized by LinkedIn. So you cannot switch it up. So I tried out lots of things. First, like, I changed the location. And okay, I got some events to, like, join for a coffee in Austin, or meet somebody in Berlin, or whatever it is, but they didn't, influence what I'm seeing in the feed. Then I realized, okay, let me try to eliminate people from Serbia. So I have deleted, like, I had 9,000 connections at the time, so I deleted 3.
Oh wow.
And it didn't help. I just lost them. What helped is when I actually started to connecting more with people who are English native, back in from the UK, from Australia, US, wherever.
Sure.
And they become the majority, so that changed things.
Interesting.
Yeah. And but still up to this day, I try to send to everyone at least a message or something like that, because it was like, when I started Funky Marketing, I already had like 9, then 6,000 connections, and I sent everybody a message.
That's great.
And it sparks things starts happening, and So and also I got a feedback for my content. I don't know if you get it, probably yes, but this is one of the biggest outcomes for me out of DMing people, because I just say hi and they say, your content is great.
Yeah.
Or like, I've been following you for 6 months, and you
Yeah.
never see those people.
Yeah. Yeah, I've started making that argument recently. Like everybody like puts lurkers down so much. There's, the notion of creators versus lurkers, right? And lurkers are people that aren't creating any content. They're kind of hiding out in the backgrounds. Of my 6 ghostwriting clients right now, 4 of them never interacted with one piece of my content. Never. Not one time. Literally, like, just emerged from the shadows, sent me a DM one day. It's like, I've been watching you for 4 months, 5 months. Let's talk. It's like, because it goes from recognition of like the content you create and how you tell your story to curiosity about what you do. And that's a big misassumption, and that's why I think vanity metrics are pointless, because views and all that stuff, that's great, but a lot of that's the echo chamber effect, where we're all just liking each other and lifting each other up. That's not what turns into business. What turns into business is people watching you in the shadows, and one day they come out and they're like, hey, I've been watching you for a long time, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, and you just need one, know.
Yeah, just every now and then. So.
That's it. So tell me. I'm interested to know, like, what's your routine related to the LinkedIn? Because I'm trying to create sort of a routine for me. I have this, like, when I'm posting, trying to engage, but nothing like specific. So
Yeah.
when I see that somebody has something specific, I want to know about it.
I do the same thing for myself that I do for my clients every day. Some of my ghostwriting clients I create content for every day, like every business day, and others I create for content for them like 3 days a week. But the pattern for myself is the same 6 days a week. I don't post on Saturdays typically. So my process always is to start a timer for 30 minutes, and I go in and I leave value added comments in the feeds that we were talking about, either in the hashtag feeds or by, recent in my own feed, and just leave those comments for 30 minutes and just do that. All other tabs are closed. I'm just leaving comments. I believe very much in that reciprocal engagement, because when you do that, a lot of those people will come right back and engage on my content as soon as I post it. So I start by everybody that engaged with the post from the previous day.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have 15 people like a post the previous day, I just automatically open all their profiles, go to most recent, whatever post they did recently, I interact on that post. I just give that engagement right back. And then I go from there into my feeds and kind of have my process. But pretty much at that 30-minute mark, I have the content ready and teed up to go from there. And we'll straight up just post whatever I have ready. If it's something new, I'll do that. If it's a video that I've had ready to share, I'll do that. I'm not afraid to republish content. I republish stuff that succeeds. I'll republish it 2-3 months later. Why not? If it did well once, I'm going to do it again.
I closed four clients in January when I didn't work at all. I didn't post a single thing. I just
republished. That's great. Love it. But yeah, that's my process. So I do that same 30 minutes for myself, and I do that same exact thing for each of my clients. So 30 minutes interacting as them in the feed, then post, and then at the end of the day, I do all that in the morning. So I try to get it done in like a central time block between like 7:30 Central and like 10 Central typically. So it hits all the time zones in the US. And then I come back at the end of the day and kind of see what comments happen during the day and make sure to respond to those on the posts. And now that LinkedIn's stretching out shelf life for posts, a lot of times there's comments on posts from 2-3 days before that I have to go back in and respond to those. But that's kind of my typical pattern day by day.
Yeah, sounds good. I guess I was just too lazy to do that, but
it took me a long time to get there.
Sounds
to
clever.
Make it, to make it consistent. So
yeah,
I mean, force myself into it. So.
I mean, if I need to define creating relationship, that would be it. So yeah, that's a great thing to hear, and I think everybody listening will have something out of it. I guess you can go back and just write down the step by step that Kris just gave you, how to engage and how to approach your LinkedIn on a daily level. So let's go. We talked about all the different stuff. So you start posting, then you connect with people, then you create the daily routine. But what happens when you go up and everything go up and you're happy, and then it just goes flat one day?
Yeah, I think that's where experimentation comes in. If you're going to be successful doing this long term, you got to be ready to experiment and do it a lot. I'm not afraid to just completely do a week's worth of video. Like last week, all I did was videos. Like, I'm not gonna do any text posts. I'm gonna try a week worth of videos, see what happens. Did pretty well. Kind of pulled things back up. Profile views went back up. I play with post size a lot. They give us 5 lines of the hook. I'll do a 5-line post. That's it. You'll see some people do 2-line posts. Even, to take it to the next level, like, I'm just going to play around with different things and see what happens and see what resonates with people. One week I might mix in more republishes than new content and just like really lean heavily on high performers, especially with kind of feeling that dip happen. I'm going to lean back on stuff I know it's done well in the past to see if it can give me a boost. So it's just always about experimentation. You have to keep experimenting and not get upset at the lows and not get too happy with the highs. I've talked a lot about existing in the world of the middle grounds. Like, the more you can live there, the better your life's going to be, because there's going to be both. So,
Exactly. That's why one of the reasons I mentioned psychology at the start, because we don't work with solopreneurs that much these days, but we work with companies when we create like the hub inside the company, when they got to interact with each other, start creating things, go from personal brands and then align with a company brand. And like, psychology is everything here. So because they will go through encouragement to start posting, then they will get some comments, some hate ones, some good ones. They need support to go through all of that. Right. And and then at the end comes this moment when everything goes flat, and they need support to actually try to experiment with some of the things.
Yeah, and it's frustrating when things fall flat when it's been going well, because you're like, okay, well, what's changed? Some of I was at my peak of views and engagement before this last update, whatever happens, and it was like just. But now I'm like figuring out how to like climb back up the mountain, I guess, and like what's going on. And I don't know. It's interesting. I don't blame stuff on the algorithm very often, but it's in the numbers. There's no doubt about it. Like, my view count was down by 50% in September. So
yeah. I don't know. Me, I have 2 months of going really high, then it goes a little bit down, then it goes up again, and I started, I stopped paying attention to it. But what's good, I don't know if you had a chance to talk to somebody like LinkedIn. People from LinkedIn started to reach out to creators and to kind of enable them and help them reach their goals. I don't know. The guy asked me like, what are my 2 goals for the next 6 months? How can I help you establish that? That didn't happen on any other platform.
Yeah, they've got this creator accelerator going on, and actually today's the deadline. So if anybody wants to get in on that, get your application in. I'm saying that to myself. Sorry, I remember, because I have to shoot the video for mine and get it out the door. But they're obviously starting to think about, how to really activate people that are active and like encourage that behavior even more and help people take it to the next level. So I think that's good.
And like, what I really appreciate is that the guy from LinkedIn told me, we know we're late, we are damn late, but now I joined the company, now we're gonna change that.
Well, at least they have the recognition, I guess. That's good. I don't know, I'm curious if I think all of it's leading toward monetized content at some point. I just don't see how that's not the end result, and I think that's going to be an interesting frontier for all of us as creators to cross when we get there. It's coming. So.
Yeah. So let's get into the topic, which is, I guess, the next step for you as well. And I saw that you talked a little bit about it, so I wanted to kind of tackle that one as well. How does the shift from being an operating owner goes to an owning operator? How does
Yeah.
the shift happen?
Yeah, it's interesting. Operating owner is very much what I consider myself at this point. Like I've got a lot of executional work every day, which I love. I really enjoy working with my clients, and I like being in the weeds and creating content for them and working in that element of ghostwriting. But I don't want that to be the core of my business forever. I want there to be a balance. So starting to think a lot more about what I can build that's a little bit more hands off, right? Is it group coaching programs? Is it, is it like Power Hour or VIP Day type, more transactional brand building where I work with you for one day and that's what we do. And you come back later if you want, to like kind of more of a coaching relationship, trying to bring on some coaching clients. So really, I'm just thinking about it in terms of creating balance. Because the more stuff that's a little less executional and doesn't require as heavy a lift, I think I'll be able to scale at some point. And I'm not one of these people that wants to have an 8-figure business out of what I'm doing. I mean, that's not my goal. My goal is time freedom primarily, as I worked in the corporate world for a long time. And so, time freedom is what matters to me, and that's what I'm pushing toward. So I'm just trying to think about like, how do I pull back from the executional, make things a little bit more transactional, open up that gray area where I can bring on an intern or two or a part-time person to help me with a lot of the things that I'm looking at this to-do list. It's a mile long that I can't ever touch because, we talked about it offline a little bit. I don't have the time, flat out. So how can you create that balance so you can open up that time to think about the long-term sustainable growth of the business rather than just being in the weeds? That's a big difference, I think.
Exactly. Like I think I'm dealing with that just maybe on another level because I have like a small team, but I realized that the guy that I have had here, which was the one which my right hand, is basically the copy of me, and I realized that I need somebody else who can who will be better in managing the team, those kind of things, so I can go and actually think of the strategies, think creatively, and grow the company basically. I need somebody to manage, take care of the people and the clients at one hand. So even if you have a small team, you need that somebody, and it's hard to find those people.
Of course. Yeah. It's and it's also deciding what am I willing to offload? What am I willing to delegate? I'm a little bit of a control freak in that aspect. Like I built my business in a very particular way to where it is now. What am I willing to let other people do and trust that they'll do a good job with? And I won't have to micromanage, that I micromanaged for a long time. I don't want to do it anymore. So like, what can I trust?
That's always a headache.
Yeah. So
what was interesting, like I turned out into a guy who, like, if I delegate it all straight away, and you can either surprise me, which happened more often than disappoint me. If you disappoint me and fail, I will get back to it and do it as I would do it if you are not here. So that's not an issue. But if you surprise me, then it's good for the both sides.
Right.
And it means that I gave you trust right away. But at one moment I realized, okay, I'm delegating this even too much, because I delegate you are responsible for that. I don't care about it. Just let me know when it's done, or what's the next step, or what's the next thing.
For sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of nuances here to think about.
Yeah. And like who are the people that you trust to work with you also? Like my gut instinct, I live in Austin, Texas, and the University of Texas is here. There's 60,000 students here, a lot of very capable students. It's a very difficult university to get into. And so most everybody is pretty intelligent. I've had some bad experiences with interns from there in the past though. So like, as much as I would like to just go get interns from the university, I hesitate a little because I'm not 100% certain that they'll be able to handle the work that I need handled. But at the same time, I don't know that I want to go hire somebody to bring on like 10, 15 hours a week and be thinking that they might be looking for a full-time job and they're just kind of taking my money to pass the time. So like, where's the middle ground, right? Like, how do you find somebody that you know is in with you for the right reasons?
I think VA might be a good fit.
Thought about that too. Yeah,
because like for us, I tried all kind of things. Like, not many people here in Serbia have experience in SaaS, for example.
Yeah.
And if they have experience in marketing, they don't have that big of experience in a background. So in measurement, measuring things,
right.
Knowing how to go and do advanced report in G Analytics and even in the CRM. That's like another level. But on the other hand, like, if I'm gonna hire somebody from the US, it's like basic salary in the US, it's the high salary here. So it's another headache.
Yeah.
And you go on and on. But I mean, that's why we are entrepreneurs. We solve those problems one by one.
That's right.
Okay, so one of the topics that I like to talk a lot, and I realize that you love it too, is the storytelling.
Yeah.
Like the importance of the good story and where can we find them, actually. Yesterday I had on the show Michael Phillips, who I found the easiest guy to get the story. Like, he was playing sax, he's weightlifting, he was in sales, now he's in marketing, and he's a bit of a comedian. Okay, but most of people have neither of those things.
I think you just figure out what's unique about your story, about your history. For me, it's growing up in West Texas. West Texas is pretty much, it's really removed from everything else. Like, I grew up in a city of like 150,000 people, but the closest really big city is like five hours away. So it's kind of just out there in the middle of nowhere to some extent. There's a lot that comes with that. Like, I grew up with with imposter syndrome, like, baked into my bones, pretty much. Like, everybody pretty much that I know that grew up there feels the same way. We all kind of have this assumption that, like, oh, you kind of look down on yourself. It's part about the geography. It's part about other influences that I won't go into a lot of detail about. But I mean, that's kind of my history. So I grew up with that and like had to work my way out of it. But I was an athlete, I played sports at a high level. I played college basketball. So a lot of the, my life experiences come from sports and what I learned from that, both positive and negative. And a lot of that, informs my life. One of the things I talk a lot about is I moved something like 12, 13 times between the time I was like 25 and like 28. Moving just around, like thinking grass is greener, taking new jobs, moving to a new place. Oh, this will be better. Never was. It's always like wherever you go, there you are. So my problems just followed me wherever I moved. So all those things informed, kind of my voice and the way that I sound on social media. I think I'm friendly generally in terms of my tone, but there are times when I'm going to speak my mind. I'm just going to say, okay, here's what I've experienced. This is the way I see it. If you agree with me, that's great. If not, I understand, and state your case,
Yeah, like the good guy actually has a voice, and has an attitude. He has something that he cares about.
Yeah, and I'm not afraid to be contrarian every now and then. I'm not going to be controversial for its own sake. I see people do that where they're just always kind of playing devil's advocate, and if there's like a common theme that we all agree upon, they'll just go in the opposite direction because. And that's silly to me. Like, it doesn't serve a purpose. But if I have a different take on something, I'll share it and see how people react. So.
Yeah, I find myself a lot in your story. Like, I'm also from the small city, and imposter syndrome is here for all the time. But like, I'm not going to go into details, but there's one thing that a friend of mine from high school told me now when we had like 15 years anniversary of since we finished the high school, and we didn't see each other for a long time. And he said, I'm following you on Instagram, and you are somebody that wasn't, you were talkative, but you became a guy who is using that to his advantage, because he found out, the benefits of speaking those things out. And I'm and I see it goes well for you. I say, okay, I didn't have this perspective of me, but
It's always interesting to hear that from other people, what you don't see in yourself, and I think that happens. The more visible you get, the more people are willing to talk about it and tell you about it. So.
Yeah, and I think the conclusion of this is that we all have some specific moments that maybe we don't realize that they are interesting, or they can be a story,
right.
But other people think completely opposite. Like, I always like to use this small example. Like, if I apply for a job and you got the job, you have a story to tell that is interesting to me, because you got the job, the way.
Yeah, and there's levels. I think that, a lot of the better teachers that I've found on LinkedIn that teach about how to build your brand and teach about strategy talk about levels. Like, no matter where you are, there's somebody that's much farther along than you are and from whom you can learn. And there's somebody that's just getting started that's watching you and learning from you. So again, that ties back to vanity metrics, and never make the assumption that people aren't watching, because they're watching on both sides. I've been invited to some live streams and podcasts from people I would have never thought possible, who I thought were way, out of my out of my sphere, and vice versa. I've invited them and I never thought they would accept, and they did. So you just never really know what people are thinking about you until you reach out and find out. You make the assumptions about it, but you don't really know until you have the conversations.
Yeah, that's how it happens. I mean, I reached out recently to lots of people that I consider interesting. I realize, okay, some of them would never accept, or maybe wouldn't even, see my invite to be a guest on the podcast. Like, I reached out to The Game, the rapper.
Oh yeah.
I reached out to Will Smith. I reached out to Rory Sutherland, like Peter McKinnon. Like, Rory saw the message. Rory came to the show. Like, that's
really?
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. And he was actually great. Like, we talked for an hour and a half or something like that.
Cool.
Even outside of the recordings.
Yeah, I like some of my inspirations in the last few years are guys like Jamal Marshall and Travis Latchner. Travis especially in terms of live streaming. I mean, no, I don't think anybody really does it better than Travis. So I've been following him for a long time, and I invited him on. He's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, oh wow, okay. Surprised me. I thought he'd be like, nah, I'm too busy here. Like, just ignore me. And
Yeah. I guess all the other people will also accept if they see the message. That's just it. Sometimes because it's too nosy out there and they don't see the message.
Right.
Talking about other people, Dan Moat says, "What's up, Kris?"
Dan's awesome. I enjoy Dan's content a lot. Really good stuff.
Yeah, I have no idea who Dan is, but if I see that we are connected and that I have no idea who the guy is, then it's my fault or LinkedIn's algorithm. So I'll change it.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. Good follow for sure.
Okay, for the end, I have one topic which is kind of interesting, and I think people go back and forth with it. Especially on LinkedIn, like, do we have a community or we do only have followers? And I think that's really interesting, and I think everybody has an angle to talk about the topic.
It's up to you. Is the way that I think about it. Which you want. You have followers if you're just passive, and people that are following you and that that are connected to you, they're just followers if you don't take that next step. The thing that I hear constantly taught here, for LinkedIn, which is half truth, is if you're consistent, you create content consistently, everything will just come together. That happens for like 4 or 5 influencers that were here 8 years ago. That's just not the way things work. If you're consistent and you tie that in with intentional relationship building, or you intentionally are building relationships with people in your community, then your followers become your community. If you don't take that intentional relationship building step and you just throw content out there, then you just have followers. I think that's the difference. That's the way I see it. Not to say that one of those followers may not occasionally turn into a lead, but they're much more likely to become, part of your business or a more valued relationship if you take the next step. But you have to. I have
Yes.
some clients that are willing to do that and activate that and do what I do. I'm not saying my process is 100% correct, but it works for me. I offer the same process to them, offer them to take advantage of it. Some do, some don't. And I'll be honest, that pretty much everybody that does has more leads coming through because they're doing, they're really taking that next step. So it just depends.
Yeah.
That's why I say that's a relationship. So.
Agree. I mean, you need to go. I always call that, because we are now rebranding Funky Marketing and everything and going into relationship centric marketing. That's how we call it. Because I want to get away from we get you more revenue, we get you more sales, we get you more deals done. I want to go totally into relationships, because I'm seeing things that Netflix is doing, that R&B is doing, is walking halfway to the customers, not waiting customers to come to them.
Exactly.
And I think it's coming slowly to the B2B space.
And the companies that get out in front of it will be the ones that succeed, because they'll blaze the trail for it, and you'll see the difference in the way people interact with them. I think you already see it to some extent of companies that are very active or thoughtful about having multiple employees, like y'all do, like having multiple employees posting content under their personal brands that kind of by proxy pulls attention back to the company brands. And, so people are like, oh, okay, now I'm associating these people with the company. And so you already have your human face out there before you ever have that first conversation. Companies that don't do that, they just have a bunch of people behind the curtain, right? No one knows who the people are.
And that's the tragic story, because companies people are the ones that are building the products, are doing the services. Right. Why are you hiding them, since you already hired them and you believe in their work? I will never understand that.
Very strange. It's kind of an odd approach for your first touch point to be with somebody you have no idea who they are.
And you got me thinking about build it and they will come. There was a meme. We posted on the company profile, which is I figured out, okay, people started to mimic this as well. It was like a battle on the field, and there are two warriors from the winning party, saying, hey guys, hey man, do you think somebody is alive? And how can we check? And the other guys say, build it and they will come. And they started, oh, we're gonna kill them as well.
That theory, man. That's call it Field of Dreams theory, from the movie. It's just it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It may for companies that have massive VC backing or whatever, and they can just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But for small companies, it doesn't happen. You got to build it.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, we're close to the end. So tell me, Kris, is there something that we didn't mention that you want to say, or something to say for the end?
Yeah, just if people want to reach out, they want to find out a little bit more about what I do, the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. It's my home away from home. I'm there pretty much all the time. The company's name is Zanate Ventures, so it's Zanate Ventures, and that's the website. Zanate is Spanish for grackle, like the black birds that are all over the place. They're everywhere here in Central Texas. They're really scrappy, kind of resilient. That's what I identify with in terms of how I do business for my clients, and that's where the name comes from. So if you want to check out the website, they can there, or find me on LinkedIn, reach out, let's chat. If we're connected and we haven't really had a conversation, please reach out, send me a DM. I'm going to get to know all my connections better, and I'm going to be much more intentional about that going forward. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm recommending you do that as well. Like Kriss is a great guy, and at least you will have a good conversation,
Yeah, for sure.
with lots of different perspectives. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
All right.
guys, thanks for being here, Kriss. Thanks for being a
No,
great
thank you.
guest and chatting with me here about lots of different topics. I'm sure we can in the future do this again and
Yeah, enjoyed it.
see how things are developing.
Sure. Hopefully positively. So-
Let's hope. Let's hope. Okay, guys. So this was another episode of the Funky Marketing Show. Thanks for being here, and as always, keep it funky.